Morning, folks. It's 6:20 a.m., May 24th, 2026. And I want to start a garden tour today. And the reason I want to do a garden tour today, it's about the time I do it. Maybe I usually do it a couple of days closer to the end of the month. But there's going to be a pretty good sized change in the garden over the next couple of days because I'm pulling the garlic out. That's 5 beds worth because I want to get, I think it's ready. I shared a short yesterday of a garlic bulb that I pulled just as a test to see how it was looking. It was a good looking bulb. And later that day I pulled another one out of the southeast corner of the first bed. And the reason I did that is because I had a purple sweet potato slip that really wasn't, I harvested off of it to create more slips, and I wanted to see what it would do in the ground, so I just threw it in the same spot the garlic was at, and that bulb was 50% bigger than the one I shared. So I think they're probably ready to come out. I'm actually going to do that first bed today, and then maybe I'll do the next 4 beds over the next 2 days. We got rain coming in. I really don't want them to get so saturated to where I'm kind of pulling them out of mud. So yeah, I want to get the garlic tour done today, so the garden tour done today, so that next tour it kind of can show more of the transition, what happens from month to month. So the first thing to notice is I have a bit of a janky setup now to get into an already janky fence, because the skunk that I struggled with last spring tore tiny little holes in the netting of this gate and actually pulled the chicken wire back on my north gate to get back in the garden. In case you didn't know, you see this 2x4 welded wire? Skunks can get through that. So I had to attach a chicken wire along the base, and then underneath all that wood chip is more chicken wire as an apron. So now it seems like he can't get in from the actual fence, but he figured out how to start destroying my gate to get in. And last year, once I put everything in place, it never got back in. So yeah, it's he's no friend of mine. The garlic's looking good. This is the the bulb that I shared in the short. And this is the bulb that I harvested off that back corner over there. So yeah, there's different ways to tell if your garlic is ready. I'll do a full video on the harvest. 2 of the best ways to do it is that I think is, one, kind of dig out around the base of it to see if you can get an idea of how swelled out and kind of how much separation you can kind of see in the cloves from the bulb as it matures. And the second way is to kind of do a leaf count. I think garlic for the most part has anywhere between maybe 13 and 15 leaves, give or take. And when you start noticing more and more dieback at the base of the plant for the leaves, that's the paper decaying underground as well. So you don't want to lose too many of them, but I think I've read somewhere between 3 and 5 is a pretty safe spot for starting to get an idea of whether or not you're going to have your bulbs swelling out. So I think I've probably lost about 4 to 5 leaves at the base. I think I probably have a good 10 or 11 up top. So that's usually one of my indicators to start paying more attention. I can see I missed a few scapes. I always do. I try to get all of them. We're going to pass by the potatoes, not to talk too much about them. You see how they actually look relatively healthy right now. The problem is, this is where they should have looked about 30 days ago, because they need to come out of the ground in a couple of weeks. So I'll get something out of it, but not much, primarily because the frost. I mean, you can see still some never came back. And because the frost bit so many of them so hard, I kind of just gave up paying attention. And that damage right there, that's all potato beetle. Last year, I got on my hands and knees, crawled around, took every beetle off that I could find, and it paid dividends. The plants looked really good by the end of the season. This year, I didn't want to put the effort forth because I knew that when they got burned back to the ground 50 days into their growth, that it wasn't going to be worth the effort for me to just kind of put that hour of work every day into it. I've got bolted cilantro. This is what I call my cilantro pathway, because it always self-seeds in this area. I just let it because there's no reason not to. Plus, I get these beautiful flowers out of it. With regards to the potatoes, this bed, and that little raised bed right over there, They're all Yukon Gold. For some reason, they didn't get bit nearly as hard as the Kennebecs and the Pontiac Reds, so I'll probably actually get a pretty decent haul out of them. This is an okra bed. I've got 2 rows running down each side. They were staggered to start, and then all of a sudden they somehow became less staggered. I did direct sowing and I did some undercover to patch some holes, and I'm going to have a really nice stand of okra there probably in the next 50-60 days. I think by the end of July we're going to be harvesting quite a bit from there. Asparagus I did not harvest this year because I wanted to let it continue to photosynthesize aggressively to build out the root system, because this is the start of its 3rd year. I will say this, it didn't grow that great this year, and it got burned back to the ground on all 3 frosts. So I say they're frosts, I actually think they were freezes. They probably got to the high 20s, and yeah, the few stalks that started going, which would have been the first ones that really kind of produced a lot of energy for the plant, they all melted right back to the ground in those frosts. I probably should have harvested them if I knew they were going to, not tolerate the cold. And then we've got the blackberry patch. You can see, getting really close. In a few days, we're going to be probably pulling off a reasonable size harvest, and then every day after that, it's probably going to be, all systems go on that. The blueberries are looking, I think, pretty solid. We got a nice little stand of blueberries on these. I do want to expand my blueberry patch. I think in a second I'll show you where I'm going to do that. Raspberries we'll get to in a minute. This is the raised bed of Yukon Golds. I thought this was going to be a really, really strong bed, but the plants that are over there, those 2 Yukon Gold plants, I think they're going to produce better. And I think the reason why is going to be because these plants, being a bit higher up, probably have a little less access to the nutrition in the clay. For those of you who don't know, clay actually is quite good for plants. It's actually a really great soil to grow in, with the exception of the fact that the workability of it is very difficult. So if you have a lot of organic matter on top of or mixed in with your clay, it for lack of a better way to describe it, it almost kind of unlocks the nourishment that's in the clay available to your plants, and you can do some pretty amazing things. I think these plants over here, these Yukon Golds, are better able to cycle the nutrients from the clay than those guys, because they're in a raised bed that's on top of a lot of decomposed organic matter, which is super healthy for them. I grew great greens and lettuce in those last fall, but I just don't think they're able to pull quite as much nutrition as the ones behind me. Now here's an interesting case. I lost pretty much all of my tomatoes. They were in these 3 beds, and those frosts that came through, I covered. I was really comfortable with how they were going to go, and then most of them got bit. So to give you an idea, this one and this one, they were the survivors from the 100 that I had in this area. The ones behind them, those were all still under cover, so they got transplanted after them. They were all from the same original starts. I didn't have room for those guys, so when I got destroyed, they went out. So all of them should look like this right now. Unfortunately, those look like these, and then I've got more undercover that are about 2 inches tall, because I was starting to try around 2. They're going to go in this area. What I'm also going to do, because they're going to be... The problem with this now is everybody, except for those 2 guys, they're going to be throwing fruit when the weather's still pretty decent. But those guys, and definitely these guys, they're going to be maturing as the sun is really getting aggressive. And we get a lot of sun scald, and when it's really hot, flowers don't set properly. So what I'm probably going to do in this area is I'm going to cut down. I'm not going to cut down. I'm going to find a felled tree. I'm going to cut 2-foot sections of trunk, post on the 4 corners and maybe intermittently with a section in the middle. And I'm going to put a big shade cloth over top this area. I'm going to see if I can actually make something like that work, just to keep the sun off the plants in the worst of the weather. Probably make this a bell pepper bed, because I still have a lot of bell peppers under cover, but I haven't quite decided yet. We've got peppers in this bed. Got a lot of peppers in the ground this year, usually do. I got 5 bell peppers up front, and then habaneros running down the 2 sides. I've only lost a couple of the habaneros. I put them out pretty small because I really wanted to get them. They were pretty filled out. The root systems were filled out enough in the cell pack to where I wanted to get them with the in contact with good soil. This bed, we've got some really great looking Swiss chard back here. Looking absolutely phenomenal. I have not had a chance to eat much of this because I'm kind of in I told my wife last night, a turnip greens loop, because I'm harvesting a turnip every day for my breakfast, and the greens on the turnip, as you're going to see soon enough, are about a pound. And that's about what I eat in my breakfast every morning, so I haven't really been able to cycle through other greens because I just keep reloading with turnip greens. Got some round tropea onions in this bed, and they're there because the round tropea bed that I have to my right that we'll see in a minute, it was full up when I transplanted, so they made it over here. And then my beans, this is Provider variety, told a story about my beans in a previous video, but this is all saved seed. To give you an idea, I bought a pound of seed last year that didn't germinate well. They sent me another pound. That didn't germinate well. I thought it was my fault. I tried it again this year. This bed of habaneros and this bed of mixed peppers contained one of the pounds, some of it, contained the other of the pounds, some of it. I got zero germination in both of them, but from the germination that I got last year from those bags, which was about, I think I said last time, 8 to 12%, I did try to save some seed from there, and that's the saved seed. So yeah, those I bought some bad seed, and from it I've got some good plants because I did a pretty decent job saving some seed, and from this little stand, I'm going to save a heck of a lot of seed because I do not want to have to rely on store-bought bean seed anymore if it's going to be unreliable. Because it's not the first time I've had issue with store-bought bean seed. I bought bean seed before that actually was it was Kentucky Blue Lake 274, very common for a lot of us to use. 2/3 of the plants that came out of the ground were bush, 2/3 were vining and flat pods, so there was a massive cross-contamination issue with that, or cross-pollination issue, and that's aggravating. More habaneros. So yeah, I've got 2 beds worth of habaneros. So that's going to be I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do with all of those. That's a lot for even me. In the front here, I've got, gosh, I should remember. Oh, those are bell peppers, yeah. And then we've got some fatali, which is pretty closely related to the habanero in its growth pattern and the actual pod shape. But it looks quite a bit different, and it's a bit hotter. It's been a few years since I've grown this one, but I remember it throwing beautiful plants, and I was really excited to start that one up again. And then we've got shishito. Never grew them before, but I figure we're going to give them a chance because I know of their popularity. I probably won't be sharing these much with my wife. She does not like spicy, and I know that by reputation they are mild, but for whatever reason, occasionally, apparently you do get one that has a bit of a bite to it, and I do not want her to play roulette and then get mad at me. My brassica bed for greens. Got a lot of bolting here. A lot of the up and down weather for this one cost me a lot of the greens on that one. Some lettuce up front. More brassicas over here, but mostly in the way of, we got some mustard, so you can see the mustard bolting. Some mustard has not bolted. The kale has not bolted. I've got to harvest off this. It's probably one of my favorite greens, but like I said, I'm kind of stuck with the turnip greens. Not stuck with, but that's kind of the loop I'm in. And then my broccoli is starting to head up. I got a few of those in here. I'm growing some pretty decent broccoli plants, but I had a lot of failures because this was a whole bed of broccoli. And just a lot of the up and down weather. I don't know what else kind of bit them, but they were pretty unhappy. Soybeans. Now, this has been a challenging one for me. It was about the second week of April that I put these into the ground, and I've re-sowed them once for the gaps, and some of them are starting to fill in. I've got to decide whether or not I'm going to let the bed actually continue. I think by the end of this month, so another week, because we've got rain right now, we had heat before, and if that's not enough to get a lot of those seeds going to fill that those gaps up, I might just go ahead and pull them and switch them over to black-eyed peas. Beet bed is looking really strong finally. Carrot bed over here is as well. Harvested my first beet the other day. I could harvest a carrot right now because I know there's one in there that I found that has a really nice crown on top, but we're still eating carrots from my video that I harvested my fall carrots from back in, I think it was late February. And I got probably 13 or 14 pounds of cleaned carrots into the fridge, and we've been eating from those ever since. Round tropea and red Weatherfield. This is a short day onion. They're both red. This one is a long day onion. This germinated pretty well, both direct sowed and undercover. This one did not. I was supposed to have these 3 beds with onions, but the germination that I had just across wasn't enough. But it looks like I'm gonna have a pretty good haul of onions, so I'm kind of excited about that. Last year's onions were a disaster because I grew red weather field, but I planted them in, I think I transplanted them October of 2024, and by spring of 2025 they all bolted. So that is not an overwintering onion. I probably won't do that experiment again with any other variety, only because I don't like the risk that it comes with here for whatever reason. The turnips. Yeah, so if I find a good size, baseball size or smaller turnip that I like the shape of, that I'm like, oh, that's what I want to pull today for tomorrow's breakfast. With it comes about 400 grams of leaves, and that fills up my Instant Pot. So that's basically what I've been eating for greens. Really happy with how that turns out, but it tells me that I could probably sow fewer other greens if I want to make sure that less is going to waste. I mean, they don't really go. Stuff in the garden, when you have a compost system like I have, really doesn't go to waste, but I would prefer it go to human consumption rather than to microorganism consumption if I can. This is the first of the 3 donation beds that I've got going. These are the carrots, so in a few weeks we're probably going to be able to do a massive haul, clear this out of carrots, and then I'm probably going to follow it up with cucumbers, because I've got 4 more cucumber plants sown under cover right now, and I'm probably going to let them sprawl because I won't trellis them. But that could be a pretty good section for that. Maybe even throw a couple of melons in there as well, just to really fill it out for donation. The beets have been inconsistent in this bed. I had to re-sow, and then I had more transplanting, but I think we'll get a nice little haul within the next few weeks as well. We may be taking the carrots first and the beets second, all at once. And I've got bell peppers in this one up front. The radishes were here. And then the remainder of the turnips, I got to figure out which ones are good for donation and which ones are probably not going to be worth for somebody trying to eat, because some turnips seem to shape up maybe no more than thumb size, and some get beautiful baseball size. Strawberries have been a huge disappointment this year. I think my yield is probably somewhere between 5 and 10% of last year, because we lost our entire first flush of flowers to the heat and the frost. Like I said, we frosted on the mornings of the 9th, the 19th, and the 20th, and before and after each of those, we had like 3 stretches in the high 80s. That doesn't end well for strawberry flowers. I can also it doesn't end well for blackberry flowers either, because my Primark Freedoms didn't produce their May flush the way they should have, and that kind of broke my heart, because those are like thumb-sized pieces of fruit, and they just I didn't get them this year. More peppers in this one. This was supposed to be a bed of Aleppo peppers, but I lost most of them in the frost as well. But these 4 survived. Those 3 are Fatali. These are more Aleppos that I had from the remainder of the seed, and it looks like I somehow left my little plant tag out there on those. That's sloppy. And then 2 more Aleppos, they made it as well. So the 6 made it. Those 4 were the remainder of the seed that I was able to start. So I got 10 of those in total. I'll do a lot of seed saving from those. And then some Swiss chard. The only problem with trying to seed save from them is the fact that they're going to be close to these Fatalis, so cross-pollination is I think a relatively slight risk when it comes to peppers. I know you want more than just, a foot, but they are self-pollinating, so hopefully I'll be able to save some that would go true to type, and then going forward I'll have my beds much better separated. Lettuce bed. So just as it's about to get really hot, my lettuce is looking really, really great. This is a butter crunch up front, and then I think we've got some Grand Rapids and some Paris Island romaine. And then I've got my lima beans. This was from a video I threw out the other day. That was the Aldi lima bean experiment. So we're gonna see how those things come along. I lost one right there in the middle, and that was it was a really tiny one that had no business going out, but I wanted to just get everything out that I could. 2 rows of 9, and then I've got 1 and 2 right there in the middle. And that is sort of a bit of a single seed challenge for myself. It's an Aunt Ruby German green tomato. And I grew that variety a few years ago, and it is hands down probably the most delicious beefsteak tomato I've ever tasted. And my neighbor bought a pack on my recommendation a few years ago, and she gave me a seed, or she gave me a few seeds a couple years ago. And I don't remember actually growing them then, but I found the seed sitting in a pack, and I'm like, oh, let me try that. Let's see if I can germinate it. And I did, and there it is. So excited to see that one come along. Especially because my tomato haul is going to be light for a while. If that one steps up pretty quick as the weather turns, we might get something pretty good out of her. Fava beans are looking okay. I'm starting to see pods on them now as well. Yeah, let's take a look real quick. But I have noticed quite a few flowers set here that didn't actually pollinate. And I had to pull one plant entirely because the plant just went kind of limp on me, and it looked like it was almost dead. Not too far from what this guy's looking like with those that leaf curl at the top. So I may pull him as well if he's sick. In between, can't really see too well, but here we go. So what I decided to do with these fava beans is once they are done, I'm going to cut them off at the base and down the middle of this bed. And in between the asparagus here in this bed, in this bed we've got some cantaloupe, and in this one we've got cucumbers in the front, and some of them aren't looking so good. They're recovering. 1, 2, and that one 3, and then we've got some watermelon after that, but I've got more started under cover as well, because I figure I can go ahead and let these things sprawl out in this area and just cover the ground. My newly installed raspberry patch is doing quite well. Really happy with how these are looking, and I think over long term what I'd like to do is extend these guys down. What I'm going to do with the shade cloth that I want for those guys is, if I no longer need it for the tomatoes, I'd like to drape it over these T-posts and protect the raspberries in the worst of the heat, because I talked to the guy who sold me these. He said they're pretty sensitive to heat, so if you don't wind up getting a crop when you're supposed to, which for me should be September through November, it might be because they took too much direct sun and heat in the summer. And it is pretty brutal in this area. We're not going to get any shade protection here, so a shade cloth draped over top might be the trick. This was a fig that didn't come back this year. I'm starting to wonder if I actually pulled him too early, because a lot of my figs that I carried forward in pots last year didn't break dormancy until late, so I may have pulled him prematurely, and if I did, shame on me. But I put in his place some jalapenos. We've got the aronia plants, and they have since thrown their flowers that have converted to fruit, and now we can see started the berries there. That's going to be a really nice haul. And then we've got a bit of a showstopper here in the elderberry. Really looking strong there. No idea how I'm gonna be able to harvest off of all this, but the birds love the hell out of these things, so anything I don't get is going to get put to good use. But yeah, it's a really nice plant. If you ever want to grow a nice summertime kind of a barrier between you and a neighbor or something like that, you want a windbreak maybe, this is a pretty solid plant to go with, and super easy to propagate. As we move around, lost my pathway there, so kind of cutting through the beds. Because I screwed up by pulling that fig, possibly screwed up, I decided to put another one here. This is a newly propagated Violetta de Bordeaux, and I saw this space here, and I said, yeah, you can live there, so she lives there now. And then the other blackberry patch, just waiting to get harvested. And this one is the Primark Freedom that should have been loaded up with fruit. All those flower sets pretty much dead. You can see we still have some. They did not size up entirely the way they should, but as you can see, some of them did. I say some of them, very few of them did, but this plant should be dripping with fruit of that size. I watched my garden tour last year, the May one, about a week ago, because I really wanted to see what May looked like, because when I walked this garden a couple weeks ago, I was thinking to myself, man, this really just doesn't look good this year compared to last year. And that was in my head. And when I watched the tour, Yeah, I was right. Last year we were doing a lot better than we are this year. Made a lot of mistakes that I haven't made in the past. Those up and down weather experiences in April really kind of messed things up, and not having rain for the most part the entire spring kind of stunted things as well. But I learned some things that I need to do a lot better going forward. I took some risks that didn't pay off this year that I won't be taking going forward. And I'm going to change a lot of the plantings that I'm going to have. I'm going to have probably 2 fewer strawberry beds because I'm not going to gamble on as much space for strawberries if the up and down weather trends continue. And I'm going to have probably next to no potatoes because I would much rather right now have that free space for my sweet potato slips because I've got a lot ready to go than to go with a crop that, again, if we're going to keep having these heat waves and heavy freezes in April, that's halfway into the potato growing season for me. It's just not worth the space at this point. And that's the tour for May. Next time you see the garden, you are going to see absolutely no potato beds and absolutely no garlic beds because they will be pulled. And that's in all those spaces we're going to see sweet potato slips instead. And that's something I really love. So I hope you enjoy what you saw today. And until next time, my friends, take care. See you later.